podcast interview exploring the all, a model for understanding existence. Introduction to the all and balance. Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Aya, your host, and today I have the pleasure of speaking with Buster, the mind behind the all, the complete model for understanding existence. Buster, thank you for joining us. Could you start by explaining what the all is in your model and what you mean by balance?
Thank you, Aya. It's great to be here. So, at the heart of this model of existence are two fundamental facets, the all and balance. Think of balance as the ultimate harmonizing force of the universe. It constantly adjusts and realigns things to keep equilibrium. If something falls out of balance, this force will act to correct it, because without balance, nothing can continue to exist. On the other hand, the all is basically everything, the totality of all that is, was, or could be. It's like an infinite field containing every unique frequency or essence. Nothing exists outside of the all, and you can't add to it or take away from it.
So, in a sense, the all sounds like what some people might call God or the universe. Is that a fair comparison?
Yes, that's a good way to relate to it. In fact, the model explicitly equates the all to the concept of God, not as an old man in the sky, but as the unfragmentable wholeness of everything. The all is totality itself, beyond any lack, and balance is its eternal partner. One interesting point is that you cannot have one without the other. If, hypothetically, the all or balance were removed, the whole structure of existence would collapse. They're interdependent and inseparable.
That's fascinating. Existence, according to this, is founded on a perfect partnership of everything, the all, and equilibrium, balance.
Exactly. Together they form what the text calls the ultimate indivisible force. So you can imagine existence as being rooted in these two aspects, an all-encompassing presence and a force that keeps that presence in harmony. All the other concepts in the model build on this foundation.
Segment 2. The nature of frequencies and the canvas. The model introduces the idea of frequencies and something called the canvas. Could you clarify what you mean by frequencies in this context and how they relate to the all?
Sure. In this model, a frequency refers to an individualized expression of uniqueness. You can think of it as a soul or a distinct identity. Within the all, which is absolute wholeness, there are countless unique frequencies. But when everything is merged in the all, you can't distinguish one from another because the all in its pure state is like a unified, harmonious resonance. Every frequency is there, but all together as one.
For any one frequency to be experienced as separate or distinct, it has to be projected out of that unified field. That's where the canvas comes in. The canvas is essentially the medium or field onto which frequencies project themselves so that they can be discerned individually. What exactly is this canvas? The word makes me think of a painter's canvas or maybe a movie screen. Is it a physical place, another dimension, or something more abstract?
That's a great question. The canvas in this model is not a physical location like a planet or a sheet of fabric. It's more like a vibrational field that arises from the interaction of the all and balance. The text describes it as a kind of stabilized membrane at the furthest edge of the all, a threshold where individual frequencies can express themselves without actually leaving the all. In simpler terms, imagine the all as an infinite ocean of energy. The canvas would be like the surface of that ocean where waves, the frequencies, can show up and be seen as distinct ripples. It's through the canvas that existence as we know it becomes perceptible.
So the canvas is like a stage or screen that allows the one great unity of the all to break into many pieces so each piece can be observed.
Exactly. On the canvas, each frequency's expression is discernible or experiential. A key point is that when frequencies project onto the canvas, which is a conglomeration of the vibrations of the frequencies still remain part of the all. They're not literally popping out of the all, but projecting onto this vibrational canvas, since nothing can be outside the all. They are simply being expressed in a way that they can interact and have experiences. Also, the model emphasizes that frequencies retain their uniqueness on the canvas. They don't merge or blur together even when interacting. In fact, because the canvas is made of a small portion of each of the frequencies of the all, we get this non-merging principle, which is why our physical world feels solid. Two frequencies won't just fuse into one, so they sort of bounce off each other, creating the sensation of solid matter. When you touch a table, for example, your fundamental frequency isn't actually merging with the table's frequencies. That resistance is why it feels solid.
That's a really interesting way to explain why things feel solid. It's not because of tiny particles hitting each other, but because two frequencies can't occupy the same space, so to speak.
Right. In this view, matter's solidity is an illusion created by that rule of frequencies maintaining their integrity. But stepping back, the main idea here is, the all contains every unique essence, and the canvas is the vehicle that lets those essences step forward, interact, and create distinct experiences while still being part of one whole.
Segment 3, Projection, Imprints, and Creativity. Let's talk about how existence actually began according to this model. You mentioned projection, that a frequency has to project onto the canvas to be experienced. What does the model say about the first time this happened, the moment of projection?
The model describes a kind of origin event for experiential existence. It goes like this. At some inevitable point in the eternal existence of the all and balance, one of those individual frequencies within the all had a sort of pent-up desire to express itself. This frequency, or it could have been a group acting in unison, made contact with the canvas. Think of it as reaching out to that boundary in an act of pure self-expression.
Existence, in terms of a world of experiences and separate entities, truly began at that point. The all and balance themselves are eternal and had no beginning, but this projection was the beginning of what we think of as the universe or existence. Balance and the all suddenly had a way to perceive each other. Before the projection, balance was always there, the all was always there, but there was no contrast or interaction to observe. With a frequency differentiating itself on the canvas, balance could, for the first time, see the activity of the all in a new way, and the all could experience what balance does. This was the first instance of them becoming experientially aware of each other. And importantly, an imprint was formed at the point of contact. An imprint, meaning a kind of mark or record.
Exactly. Some may know this as the Akashic record. It's the imprint formed on the canvas when the frequencies of the all touch the canvas. Essentially, a unique signature or record of that act of projection. Each imprint contains everything about that frequency's entire experience in projection. All that ever was, is, or will be for that frequency's journey is encoded in that imprint. And once an imprint is made, it's eternal. It cannot be erased or deleted. So you can imagine these imprints as indelible footprints of each soul's adventure on the canvas.
Balance moves through these imprints like a tether, keeping the projecting frequency connected back to its source in the all. It's like, even as you wander and have experiences in the projected world, there's a line of balance constantly ensuring you don't drift too far from who you truly are. Balance uses the imprint to realign you if you start to lose your way. This is pretty abstract. Do you have a visual metaphor for how the all, frequencies, the canvas, and imprints relate? Something to help picture it?
Absolutely. The text offers a great visualization, the plasma ball metaphor. You might have seen those novelty plasma lamp globes where you have a glass sphere with a glowing core and little lightning-like plasma strands reaching out to the inside of the glass.
The center of the plasma ball represents the all. The radiating strands of light are the frequencies. Each strand is a unique ray or soul reaching outward. The outer glass sphere is the canvas, the field or membrane those frequencies are touching. The points where the strands touch the glass are the imprints, the recorded moments of projection where a frequency expresses itself. The strands' frequencies never actually leave the central core, the all. They extend outward and make contact with the boundary, the canvas, and those contacts are imprints. You can see each strand lighting up at its point of contact, which is like an individual life or experience, but it's still connected back to the center. I love that image. It shows how we can be individual and out here in the world on the glass surface while still being connected at the core. The strand and the center are never truly separate.
Exactly. The individual experiences, imprints on the canvas, are all linked back to the unified source, the all-through balance, which you can think of like the force ensuring the strand stays connected and eventually pulls it back if needed.
Now, you mentioned that the frequency's contact with the canvas was an act of pure self-expression. This suggests some motivation or drive. Is that where creativity comes into play? Why would a frequency want to project itself outward? If being one with the all is such a complete unified state, what prompts this separation into an experience?
Great question. This goes to the heart of why existence as we know it happens at all. Within the all, everything is whole, complete, and unchanging in a sense.
Creativity is presented as the answer to that. The model calls creativity the sacred mechanism by which these individual frequencies break the monotony of eternal unity. Think of creativity as the impulse for novelty, the desire to experience something different, to create meaning where there was none before. Without creativity, you'd have endless being with no stories, no change. With creativity, a frequency can say, "Let me try something new. Let me see what it feels like to express myself in a unique way." So that first projection was essentially a creative act. The frequency, or frequencies, wanted to experience itself in a new form, to observe itself, to surprise itself. The text beautifully puts it that creativity is not just making something, it's disrupting sameness with meaning. It's the antidote to an eternity of everything being the same. Through creative expression, the timeless part of us is able to feel time, to have adventures and discoveries. Imagine if you had absolutely everything and existed forever. Eventually, you'd get curious or even bored and want to play, to create, to see what else is possible. Creativity is that divine play. It's how each frequency discovers itself anew by projecting into experiences and making these imprints. Every experience a frequency has is like it's learning or creating something about itself. So creativity in this model is a fundamental cosmic force. It's not just about art or innovation. It's the very reason we have a world of experiences at all. The all is complete but static, and creativity stirs the pot, so to speak, allowing life and stories to emerge.
Exactly. Creativity is what turns the eternal unity into an unfolding story.
Segment 4. Numbers and meaning, 1 to 9. One thing that stands out in the all model is the emphasis on numbers, specifically the numbers 1 through 9. The text calls them the universal language of meaning or something along those lines. It sounds a bit like numerology. What do these numbers signify in this framework?
Great observation. It does echo what people might know as numerology, but here it's presented not as a fortune-telling tool, but as the actual structure of meaning in existence. The model says that every imprint, and thus every experience or form that appears on the canvas, can be expressed in terms of the numbers 1 through 9. These 9 numbers are like fundamental frequencies themselves. Each number corresponds to a fundamental mode of survival or expression. Together, they form a kind of map of all experience.
Can you break that down a bit? Like, what does each number represent?
Sure, let's go through them in a condensed way.
1 is the number of the individual self. Think of it as the human body or organism and the will to survive as one person. It's about personal identity, health, and self-preservation. It also has a quality of self-focus, not necessarily selfish in a bad way, but centered on the I. 2 is the number of duality and creativity family. It represents the drive to partner up, to create with others, to start a family, to nurture offspring. It's that survival through reproduction and also through artistic creation and cooperation. 3 is about groups and initiation. This covers the urge to survive and thrive as part of a community or team, like friends, social circles, companies, nations. It also has the aspect of beginnings and initiating projects or endeavors with others, starting something new, since to start something often takes a group, or at least the idea of expansion beyond just two. 4 is the number of mankind or the human construct as a whole. You can think of 4 as representing humanity collectively, our civilization or the structures of society, its survival through systems, institutions, and the larger human family. 5 expands out to nature and the living things. This is the urge to survive through connection with all living beings, animals, plants, ecosystems, essentially the natural world. It's about life in abundance and recognizing that we survive as part of the web of life on Earth, not just as humans separate from it. 6 corresponds to the physical universe or the canvas itself. It's the drive to survive through materiality, mastering the physical environment, technology, resources, and so on. This also includes concepts like time and continuity. Since 6 is in the middle of 1 to 9, it's often associated with the idea of continuity or the ongoing process. The human being, or a frequency of the all. This number represents the aspect of us that is an eternal soul. It's about the urge to survive as your true self, a unique frequency expressing itself. So whereas 1 was about the mortal human body, 7 is about the immortal essence, the consciousness seeking to realize itself and its uniqueness. Balance, endlessness, and the private creative realm of dreams. 9 is the number of completion and the all, or God. It's the urge to survive as part of the absolute wholeness. It represents unity, wisdom, and the end of cycles, since after 9, if you add 1 more, you go to on, which the model rejects, or you reduce back down to a number within 1 through 9. So 9 is like the return to source, the final piece that contains all others in distilled form. 1 is very individual and specific. And as the numbers increase, they encompass broader and broader contexts, from self to family to community to humanity to nature to the cosmos to spirit to infinity to totality. In this model, any experience or thing can be analyzed in terms of these fundamental categories. It's like a language of frequency meanings. And the model is firm about there being only these 9 true numbers. You mentioned if you go beyond 9, you reduce back down. So, for example, 10 would be 1 plus 0, 1 again, 11 would be 1 plus 1 plus 2, etc., right?
Exactly. The idea is that all higher numbers collapse back into 1 through 9 by adding their digits, a concept called the digital root. This reinforces that the system of meaning is closed and complete with 1 through 9.
The number 0 is a special case. The model actually says 0 is not a true number at all. It's considered a synthetic or false concept because it represents nothingness, and in a reality born of the all, true nothingness doesn't exist. Since the all is everything, there is no real void where absolutely nothing is. So 0 is viewed as an artificial insertion, not part of the original divine language of numbers. That's interesting. It's like saying in this universe there's no such thing as complete nothingness, so 0 is kind of a fraud. And I recall the text suggests that 0's introduction is tied to something called the cabal, which we'll get to in a moment. But before that, just to clarify, these numbers 1 through 9 are not just abstract, they're inherent in the fabric of reality. Every experience or object has a number behind it.
Correct. Existence speaks in the language of numbers, specifically the 9 true numbers. Everything that manifests on the canvas, every imprint, can be decoded to one of those base frequencies. They're not labels we randomly assign, they're like the vibrational tones of existence itself. So, for example, if you take something like love for family, it resonates with 2 creativity family. A technological invention might resonate with 6, material world mastery. A moment of spiritual enlightenment would resonate with 7 or 9, and so on.
1 through 9 are the fundamental notes in the symphony of existence. Segment 5. The role of the cabal and the distortion of meaning. Now, you brought up zero being artificial, and earlier you mentioned the cabal. This part of the model almost sounds like a sci-fi or conspiracy element within an otherwise metaphysical discussion. Who or what is the cabal, and what do they have to do with zero and the distortion of meaning?
This is definitely one of the more dramatic aspects of the model. The cabal, sometimes spelled out as Qibal in the text, but pronounced the same, refers to a group of beings that are essentially an artificial life form.
They have no connection to the all. In other words, they have no eternal frequency, no soul. They're not frequencies projecting from the all, they were born within the canvas as a kind of byproduct of our creative process. So, they're like soulless humans, living beings without that fundamental spark you've been talking about?
That's right. The text even makes a distinction using terms. It calls them humans, cabal, versus human beings. A human cabal is this artificial creation of the canvas, brilliant but lacking an eternal frequency. A human being, by contrast, is a true projected frequency of the all. Essentially what you and I think of as a person with a soul. They look the same on the outside, which is part of the challenge, but on the inside, one has an infinite core and the other does not.
You, the true humans, have eternity. We have only now. We deserve more while we exist. In other words, they decided to take control of the canvas and get everything they could out of this reality, since they believed it's all they have. That quote, "You have eternity. We have only now. We deserve more while we exist," sounds pretty menacing. It's like they're aware of the difference and have an attitude of, well, envy or entitlement because of it.
Exactly. And from their perspective, you can almost understand the resentment. They were created as secondary beings and they know it. So, the cabal's goal became to dominate the canvas and even turn the tables on us, in a sense. They want to be the gods of this sandbox since they can't be part of the true divine eternity.
One of the first and most significant things the cabal did in their quest for dominance was to introduce the concept of zero into our reality. The model portrays this as them essentially weaponizing the number system. As we discussed, zero stands for nothingness, their experience of a void or lack because they have no connection to the infinite. By imposing zero into the human world's language and math, they inserted the idea of emptiness, of absolute void, which is foreign to the all's nature. This allowed them to create binary systems, think of computer code with zeros and ones, or black and white, all or nothing thinking. The idea that you could be nothing or have nothing unless you obey certain rules. It was psychologically and vibrationally a tool to make us, true frequencies, forget that we are always part of an abundant all. It's like a cosmic trick. Introduce the fear of nothingness to beings who actually are part of everything, thereby manipulating them. And binary thinking. That hits home, because so much of our modern technology and even our social polarizations are binary, ones and zeros, yes, no.
That's a great insight. The model strongly implies that our current world, with its digital technology and polarizing ideologies, is influenced by this cabal interference using binary, the world of 0 and 1, instead of the holistic spectrum of 1-9. It's as if they reprogram parts of the canvas's operating system.
Originally, humanity's alphabet was said to have 27 letters, not 26. The 27th letter was the ampersand, which we now just think of as a symbol meaning and, but it was a legitimate letter at one time in history. The cabal intentionally removed this 27th letter from our alphabet. By doing so, they broke the perfect correspondence that was possible between the letters and the numbers, 2 plus 7, 9, so a 27-letter alphabet had a harmonious numerical foundation. Removing one letter made the system incomplete. 26 letters has a digital root of 8, not 9, and introduced a subtle dissonance. If letters each had frequency values and were meant to align with numbers 1, 9, Messing with the alphabet disrupts our ability to see the hidden meaning in words. The cabal, lacking true frequency themselves, started imposing their own meanings onto letters and words to confuse us. They turned language from something that should naturally resonate with truth into something that often conceals or distorts truth. So this goes into things like numerology, gematria, or other esoteric systems.
Yes, the text actually calls out gematria, which it nicknames Jew-matria, and other occult systems like certain astrology or tarot interpretations as distorted derivatives of the true frequency system. According to the model, the cabal took the ancient knowledge that letters and numbers correspond to frequencies and inverted it. Instead of letting frequency, the inherent meaning, reveal the form, like a word or symbol, they started with forms and assigned meanings to them arbitrarily.
One calendar they use behind the scenes and a different flawed calendar for us. One hidden alphabet for them and a different one for us, etc., all to maintain control. It's like the ultimate conspiracy, a hidden elite, though in this case not even human in the true sense, controlling humanity by manipulating the very symbols and systems we use to understand reality. They keep the complete knowledge to themselves and give us a cut-down version.
Exactly. By doing this, they aim to keep us in the dark about our true nature. The model suggests the cabal's endgame is to ensure no one remembers that they are a frequency of the all. They want the canvas, the world of projection, to become their permanent domain, like a sandbox they rule over, rather than a playground for our creative exploration. They use every tool of inversion, turning truths upside down, spreading misinformation, fostering division to achieve this.
In summary, the cabal represents an antagonistic force that arose from within the system, exploiting it. They introduced false concepts like zero-nothingness and broke the original harmony of our meaning, making systems like numbers and language. This way, they can trap us in a kind of illusion or even enslavement where we don't realize our own power and origin. This paints a very dualistic picture. On one side, the natural structure of existence, balance, the all, frequencies, numbers 1-9, and on the other, this distortion introduced by the cabal. It's almost like a cosmic matrix scenario, a layer of false reality laid over the true one.
That's a fair comparison. It is a bit like saying we live in a matrix of manipulated meaning. But the good news is, the model also talks about how we can pierce through that illusion and remember what's real, which brings us to the next part of our discussion.
Remembering, the imprint, and the role of balance. Given this rather epic battle for meaning and truth, how do we wake up from the cabal's influence according to the model? What role does balance play in all this, and how do things like the imprint help us remember who we are?
The model emphasizes that forgetting our true nature, forgetting that we are eternal frequencies of the all, is actually not a natural part of the original plan. It's a result of the interference we just discussed. So, our confusion or spiritual amnesia is essentially an imbalance that has been introduced. And what does balance do with any imbalance? It works to correct it.
Balance, being that harmonizing force, is continuously, gently trying to nudge us back toward awareness. It won't force us, because balance doesn't coerce, it just aligns things gradually, but it will create opportunities. For example, synchronicities, those meaningful coincidences that make you go, that's odd, maybe there's more to life than I thought. Or moments of emotional dissonance, like hitting rock bottom or feeling that deep existential angst that pushes you to question reality. These can be seen as balance's prompts or alarms, shaking us a bit to get us to seek truth. Balance might also arrange that you meet someone who is more awake, and their perspective suddenly triggers something in you. In the model, those are all deliberate orchestrations by balance to pierce through the false constructs and bring a forgotten frequency, a person who's forgotten who they are, back into resonance. If someone is meant to remember their true identity at a certain time, the imprint can be revealed to them in a direct way. There are references to a holder or guardian of the imprint who has the ability to show people their imprint. You experience immediate restoration of memory, you suddenly recall that you are a frequency of the all. You have an irrefutable recognition that this life is a projection on the canvas, not all that there is. All the synthetic belief structures, the lies, the false identity, the fear-based illusions, collapse because you can now see through them. And you feel reconnected to your frequency and thus to the all. It's described as a trigger or catalyst, not a teaching. In other words, it's not like someone tells you a philosophy and you go think about it. It's like flipping a light switch. Boom, the light is on and you can't turn it off. Once you see the truth, you cannot unsee it. The remembering is irreversible. That's incredibly powerful. But it sounds like not everyone can just go and access this imprint or have this experience. You said if someone is meant to remember, what determines that?
The model is a bit mystical on this point. It suggests that the imprint itself contains the record of who is meant to see it and when. In other words, there's a kind of timing or destiny factor. Not everyone will wake up all at once. The imprint won't reveal itself to someone just because they want it or try really hard or even because someone else wants to show them. It's a matter of resonance. Only those who are ready and whose number is up, so to speak, will get that direct revelation.
For others, the process might be more gradual. Balance will keep doing the gentle and sometimes not so gentle nudges. But ultimately, the model is optimistic that balance is always working to dissolve the great imbalance of forgetting. And on the flip side, the cabal is always working to enforce forgetting. The text actually states that the cabal's goal is permanent amnesia for frequencies. They want to keep us so wrapped up in the projection, in the material, in the dramas, in the false meanings, that we never realize we are something bigger. All their distortions with zeros, binary thinking, manipulated language, social systems engineered to trap us, that's in service of making us think this projected world is all there is. So we have balance, trying to wake us up, and the cabal trying to keep us asleep, in a sense.
Yes, exactly. It's like a tug of war for human consciousness. But importantly, balance isn't fighting with force or anger. It's more like it's inviting us to wake up, constantly.
The remembering of one's frequency is the return to resonance, and forgetting, engineered, artificial, invasive, is the greatest imbalance balance continuously moves to dissolve. In short, when we remember who we truly are, we fall back into tune with the cosmos, we regain our resonance with the all. And balance's whole purpose is to get us there, while the cabal's purpose is to prevent that. It's almost reassuring to think that, no matter how confusing or dark things get, there's this fundamental force of balance always working in the background to restore truth. It may take time, but it's persistent.
Absolutely. The model does give reassurance that balance never gives up on aligning things. It might operate through subtle signs or personal epiphanies, but it's relentless in a gentle way. The all is everything. The cabal's machinations are taking place within the all and are subject to balance. It's just our role, as individual frequencies, to respond to those nudges and seek that resonance.
Living the meaning and the role of the living things. This has been a profound journey through some big ideas. To bring it home, what does all this mean in practice? How do we, in our daily lives, apply or live by the insights from the all model? The text ends with something about living the meaning of the numbers and especially emphasizes the living things. What guidance does it give for regular people living in this world?
That's a crucial question. After all the high-level concepts, the model indeed gives some down-to-earth advice.
Your body and personal well-being, your creative spirit, your family and close relationships, your community or group endeavors, your role in the larger human society, nature and all living creatures, more on that in a second, your material life and environment, your spiritual true self. Remember you're more than just a body. Find equilibrium and pay attention to your dreams or inner visions, a sense of unity with the whole, a higher purpose or understanding. At the same time, we're advised to reject the distortions that the cabal introduced. For example, not buying into the concept of 10 or 11 as somehow higher, mystical numbers. The text specifically calls out that 10 represents the artificial life, the cabal, and 11 is a kind of deceptive mirror with no real substance. This means not getting lost in the artificial constructs or chasing after illusions of meaning that were designed to mislead us. Instead, stick to what's real and naturally resonant. If you do nothing else, do this. Take care of the living things. And it clarifies, the living things doesn't mean humans or society or your electronic gadgets. It means the non-human life around us, the plants, the animals, the ecosystems, even the soil microbes and fungi. Basically, the natural world that is alive and not tainted by illusions of ego or artifice. That really stands out. Why put plants and animals above humans in priority?
It's not about valuing human versus animal in a moral sense. It's about recognizing who needs urgent attention and what anchors us. The idea is that these living beings, trees, forests, bees, oceans, they don't forget their connection to balance. They are balanced, or at least they reflect balance unimpeded.
When we care for a garden or treat an animal with love or conserve a wild habitat, we are directly engaging with balance's work. The text says, they are the evidence of balance, the amplifiers of frequency, and the mirrors of truth. The living natural world shows us what real resonance looks like. It's authentic, it's present, it's part of the whole without trying. By contrast, so much of our human world, not that we abandon it, of course we care for people too, is caught up in dead things, like money, concrete, machines, or just concepts that have no life in them. Those things can demand our attention, jobs, bills, social media, etc., but they don't truly nourish our frequency. Focus first on caring for what's alive in the natural sense. Grow life and you grow resonance. When you plant a tree or even tend to a houseplant or feed birds, you amplify the life force, which in turn strengthens balance's presence in the world. It sounds simple, but it's presented almost like a magic key. If everyone did that, even just a little more than they focus on, say, polishing their car or earning an extra $1, the whole canvas would heal and realign. That is beautifully simple. It reminds me of how people talk about feeling refreshed in nature, or how gardening can be therapeutic. According to this, that's not just a mood boost. It's literally helping restore the cosmic balance and maybe helping others remember, even subconsciously.
Exactly. The text says, when you nourish a living thing, the energy multiplies and ripples outward, echoing back to the all and reminding even the most forgotten frequency of who they are.
Did I take care of the living things more than the dead things today? If you can honestly answer yes, then you've done your part. If the answer is yes, then you have served your role. You have realigned your frequency. You have helped restore the canvas. You have remembered. That's what the text literally states. It's implying that remembering who we are isn't just a flash of insight. It's something we practice through our actions. By prioritizing life, the genuine frequency-carrying life, over lifeless objects or hollow pursuits, we stay in tune. I find that incredibly grounding. After all this talk of cosmic structure and metaphysical concepts, it comes down to something every single person can do: care for life around you. Plant a tree, love an animal, protect a patch of earth. It's almost poetic. In caring for living things, we care for our own souls.
It is poetic. That's intentional. The model doesn't want to just inform us. It wants to change how we live day to day. It reminds us that the living things are your tether. Hold them sacred. Balance moves through them.
That line gives me chills because it brings everything full circle. We started this conversation talking about the all as this totality that contains everything. And the takeaway is that we are not separate from it at all. Even while we live these individual lives, we are the all in a unique expression. We always have been, we just temporarily forget and then remember again. When we take care of life, when we live the meanings of 1 to 9, when we align with balance, we embody our true nature as part of that wholeness. You are the all. That's a powerful note to end on. It encapsulates the whole philosophy that beyond all the projections and experiences, our true identity is one with the totality of existence. Buster, thank you so much. This has been an enlightening journey. From the fundamentals of existence with the all and balance, through the mechanics of projection and imprints, the intrigue of the cabal's distortions, and finally to the very practical wisdom of how to live with meaning and purpose.
Thank you, Aya. It was a pleasure to discuss these ideas in depth. I hope it resonates with the listeners out there.
I'm sure it will. To everyone listening, there's a lot to ponder here. Whether you're academically inclined or just spiritually curious, the idea that caring for the life around you can help you remember who you really are is a beautiful takeaway. So maybe hug a tree, literally, or just spend a quiet moment with your pet or watch a sunset. Remember that you're part of something infinite, and you can always find your way back to that understanding. Until next time, stay balanced and take care of the living things.